Hey guys, it's Chef Nicole here. I wanted to do a little bit of like a bonus how to cut fruit because the videos that we have from the school are super fantastic, but there are other ways to also get similar results and I wanted to show you those. So I've got 2 apples, 2 oranges, and a lemon. I also have my microplane because I wanted to go over how to properly zest fruit because I think this is something that oftentimes is kind of assumed that we know how to do. And so I wanted to start here. So I'm gonna zest my lemon. I personally like to go ahead and usually pick off the little like tail end of the citrus fruit. So obviously, as we've talked about last night, I do have nails. These are my natural, they are gel, so generally they don't chip. Of course, if you guys are really paying attention, we see that I have one that did. And so if you have a little bit of a nail, you can reach under there. If you don't like that feeling, you can actually use the edge of your microplane to kind of get in there and just like pop that bad boy out. I have a bag to my side that I'm gonna use for all my scraps today. So a lot of times what people do is they take their fruit and they zest this way. The problem with that is I can't see what I'm doing. Now, of course, the oils and the fruit, the peel itself are gonna end up in the product, but I don't really, I'm not too concerned, especially because I'm probably gonna need the zest of a whole lemon. So the little bit of excess oil that's getting into the product isn't making that much of a difference. So instead what I like to do is, I am right-handed, so I'll keep my microplane in my dominant right hand and the citrus fruit in my left hand. And I'm gonna keep it so that I can actually see what I'm doing by keeping the microplane, the back of the microplane facing me. And from here, I'm just very gently, I'm not really applying a lot of pressure, especially with a new microplane. They are sharp, very sharp. So we definitely wanna make sure that we don't accidentally zest ourselves because it's possible. But that's why doing it this way, I can see everything that I'm doing and I can actually ensure that I get all of the zest from the fruit and that I'm not gouging it. So you can see here the difference in the color. I'm getting, this is the darker section. We can see where I've zested. With traditional zesting, if I flip this over, what I end up having to do is guess, and I end up with sections that are not as clean. But if you apply too much pressure when you zest and you really dig into the fruit and you're not paying attention, you end up starting to see that pith, that white section, and that is really bitter, and that's not a flavor that we want. So I usually do around the top on one side, I'll flip it over, and I'll get the other side. Now the nice thing is that the blade does come all the way up to the edge, so it will help to get into creases if you ever find that you have a citrus fruit that's creased. Once I've gone around the top and bottom, I'm gonna rotate to the side, and I'm gonna move both my citrus and my microplane hand at the same time. And again, this is very light pressure. Now I played violin for 11 years, and so this is a really natural motion, but I am just gently rocking back and forth. Now on the upswing, I'm not getting anything. So anywhere that I go up and over, I do have to come back down in that same section. And there are areas sometimes where the citrus gets flat, and so you do have to apply a little bit more pressure, but always just being cautious not to hit that pith. And so we'll just go all around our lemon. A lot of the oil that's spitting back out is actually going back into the zest right here. And so keeping all of that really natural, nice lemon oil so that I have all that for flavor for my products that I'm gonna be making on. So we're gonna go ahead and start working on supreming our oranges. So I have my chef's knife available. My paring knife is also ready. With citrus fruits and really just in general, always make sure that you guys are keeping your knives really nice and sharp. So we wanna make sure that we've got our good grip on our blade, and I definitely do my best to make sure I keep my fingers tucked and curled under. Now, we wanna make sure that when we're curling, that if hands are on a product, I can slide my blade up and down against my knuckle, and I will not cut myself as long as I don't do one of these and come down. So it's really, really nice just to keep everything right in here. So if I bring it a little closer, it's just rubbing very gently against my knuckle. And so that is what our goal is always going to be. That is our guide. And so when we're kind of like curled, but like on an angle, it's not super helpful. But if we can really bring that up and over, then that's beneficial. Now, you guys the fingernails are definitely an issue. So in a professional kitchen setting, I would absolutely not have these. They would be really nice and short. That way I have the most control over my fruit, because what can actually happen is I can bruise my products with my fingernails. And so for even guys, making sure that we have really nice short fingernails in kitchens when we are in those super professional settings, to make sure that we're taking care of our safety as well as the integrity of our product. So we're gonna go ahead and, let's just cut off this little bit right here. So it's not too bad. I think that's not actually a bad starting point at all. I was hoping to cut off less, because that was the point, is I can take less off of my orange, but I can't put more back on. So that is not gonna be enough right here. I definitely wanna cut a little bit deeper, but I would rather start off slow and have to keep adding and cutting. There we go. Versus take off too much and not be able to put it back on. So once I've got myself right here, I am gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take off a very small section to begin, because I don't exactly know where the fruit is. I have a general idea based on what I've cut right here, but I won't know for sure until I've cut into the fruit for that first section. So I'm gonna go in on a little bit of an angle, and I'm just gonna gently, even with a really nice sharp knife, I'm gonna very gently slide my knife back and forth, and I'm gonna see what happens. So you can see here, I didn't even make it all the way to the bottom, and I still have a lot of pith. But this helps me to know where the fruit is. And so we're just gonna move over very slightly, and we're gonna start following that pith, very gently following the curve of our fruit. So towards the bottom, I did take off a little bit more than I would like generally, but still nothing super crazy. And now I know where to follow. So now when I'm cutting, my knife is going to follow this line right here. So for me, I would need to face it towards me, but to make sure that you guys can see it, I'm gonna do my best to go over and away from myself. And so I've got, again, just a nice little small section, and I'm gonna really paying attention to this right here. That is where I wanna put my attention and focus to make sure that I'm coming round around the fruit. Now, again, if you don't take off enough, that's okay. We can go back and we can remove more. That is easy. We cannot reattach the fruit, however, once we have cut it off. So I am a big fan of making sure that I take off as little as possible in the beginning. You'll notice that I am working in very small sections. I don't want to hack off big sections of the orange, because that's how we end up with flat sides. So if you start noticing that you're getting a little bit low, that's okay. I'll just start a little bit further down my orange and keep going. So as you can see, we're almost done with our orange. We've kept a pretty good shape. We do have a couple of areas that are still have that little bit of pith on them, but we'll go back and get those. But we are just taking our time. Our goal is to make sure that we keep our fruit nice and round. And that is what is really one of the first most important parts of supreming or segmenting your fruit. So towards the end, we do end up usually, for myself anyways, with this one nice little chunk right here. And so that one, again, we're just gonna follow that pith and take it a little bit more gentle usually. So for this section here, we can see that there's some really thick pith in a couple of parts. I'm going to very carefully hold the fruit from the underside, and then I'm going to take my knife. I'm very slowly and very gently going to find the pith, and I'm just going to saw back and forth to remove those little sections that I don't like. Now I'm trying my best to keep my hand under the fruit. I'm going very slow. This is very, very light pressure, because I don't want to move too quick and accidentally send my blade flying forward and somehow catch the whole side of my hand. So this is very slow, it is very gentle, but I'm just trying to get off any of these big sections of pith that I feel could really hurt the overall appearance of my supreme. So Once I have everything finished like that and I'm pretty happy with my final outcome, what we're gonna do now is switch over to our paring knife. We're gonna very carefully hold our fruit in our hand, and we're gonna follow in on a little bit of an angle. So I have my pith right here. I know where that line is. I'm gonna follow in on this little bit of an angle and go until I meet what I think is the center of my fruit. Now what I can do is I can stop and I can take this side and do this one as well, still matching that angle. And what I should be left with is a really, really beautiful rounded pointed supreme. What I like to do, being as generally as you progress in the industry, speed comes into play. What I will actually do is take my paring knife and I will go down my one angle here and move to the next one and do the same angle all over again. And I will follow the entire orange all the way around. Now you can do this with grapefruit, with lime, lemon. If it is citrus, you can absolutely do this. It gets a little tricky when the fruits are smaller, but that doesn't really change anything except for how you have to watch your cuts. Now I'm supremed all the way around, but only on one side. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna flip my orange over. You can see here I've got that one cut, and I am going to go around on the other side, and I should be able to just very gently pick out each one of my supremes. For me, I found this to be a little bit more assembly line-like, and I preferred this method, but it does not work for everyone. Not everyone, because you start to, of course, lose the body of the orange, and you still have to make those cuts and be very delicate and gentle. So if you decide to try this, my suggestion is just to be very slow and very gentle, especially with those new knives, just like mine are right here. Not necessarily new, but very sharp. If you apply too much pressure and work too quickly, you absolutely can cut through the fruit and into your own hand. So we just wanna always make sure we are working with our knives respectfully. Now you will notice some of your supremes are gonna be really, really small, and that's okay. We still want them. They are still beautiful. Now we're gonna finish up. We've got our last one, and we're left with all of this. So there's still a good number of, not number, but still a good amount of fruit on here. Cut it up, enjoy it as a snack away from your work area so that we're keeping with a sanitary station, or discard as needed.